Good morning. This is Latricia Pugh Griffin with Pugh Financial Coaching, helping you make better financial decisions daily. I'm excited to be with you today as we discuss why faith and finance, which is Tuesday Thoughts this morning. This is the name of the live where I provide you information that you can apply and learn how God and finances can work together. So I'm excited to be with you today. And if you are here live, be sure to say good morning. I would love to speak to you. And if you are catching this on replay, put replay in the chat as well as I will speak to you. Good morning, Anthony. It's good to see you. And it is great to be with you today as I am extremely excited because the Faith and Finance Challenge starts tonight. So if you haven't registered still, you still have time, as well as for those of you who already registered. I'm excited about you being in attendance. It's going to be a great time together as we discuss how faith and finances can work together. And I share with you three things that you can use to continue to grow in your finances for this year. And if this is your first time being with me live, welcome to the PLC family, and I'm excited to have you here. So, with that being said, we're gonna open up with the word of prayer, and remember, we are reading this prayer together. So take time to read this prayer together, as this is our meditation for this week. So, let me pull it up and we will read. Dear God, I surrender my finances to you. Teach me to trust your guidance and seek your wisdom. Shift my mindset, strengthen my habits, and help me steward all you've given me. Thank you for being a provider and sustainer. In Jesus' name, amen. And so we are having this conversation, and if you see the title, it says why faith and finance. Why faith and finance. And so this conversation about why faith and finance is giving you a little bit of background about me. So I want to share a little bit of my story. But first, I want to give you the verse that we're using to share why I'm telling my story. And so, First Peter, the third chapter, and the 15th verse reads, "Instead, you must worship Christ as Lord of your life. And if someone asks about your hope as a believer, always be ready to explain it." And so, I am explaining why faith and finance is important to me, like how this really came about. This is almost a origin story. Now, if you follow me for a while, like what you've heard more so is about me having $500 in overdraft fees. And that is true. That is something that I had while I was in college. I didn't know how to balance my checkbook. All those things were going on. But there was another pivotal moment, which I necessarily haven't shared on this platform, but I want to share with you this morning of how this moment changed everything for me when it comes to my relationship with my finances and God. And so, why faith and finance? So, I'm going to give you a little background as to what was going on in my life. So, what was going on is that I had just graduated from college. I graduated December 2009 from the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, and that was an amazing time in my life. I was excited about the accomplishment and what God had did in my life. However, what happened after that was really scary. And I was looking for a job. I was doing all the things and I was trying it my way. I tried it my way. When I say I tried it my way, meaning that I thought that only I could do it in my strength. So what I was doing is I was treating looking for a job like a job. I was applying for jobs. At least, I would say probably like at least 10 applications a day that I was trying to submit for my resume or application, and do all the things to get myself set up to get a job. And I didn't have an amazing GPA. I wasn't a 4.0 student, but I did have a B average. Like I graduated with with a B plus average actually. So yeah, so those things were what I thought was in my favor, but it wasn't positioning me to get the job interview or be placed in front of the right people. So I tried it my way, and while I was trying it my way, I was getting frustrated. I was getting irritated not only with myself, but I was getting irritated with the people who were supporting me, and it caused of moments. I can remember one particular moment. I was on the phone with my mom and I snapped. And when I say snapped, I'm not saying that, you know, I started like arguing or screaming back at my mom, but it was something that was out of my character because of the burden that was happening in my life. I was starting to treat the people around me incorrectly. And so that was not only frustrating to myself, but that was frustrating to the people around me. And so in that moment, I was like, man, this has got to change. Something is going on. And so that was really like the moment where I realized that the burden of trying to find a full-time job was causing not only strain for myself, but it causing strain for other people around me. And so not only was I trying it my way by putting all the applications in, doing all the things, I was working 3 to 4 jobs at a time. I was also lost and confused because how is it that I graduated from college from a great university, that I graduated from one of the top programs in the country? How is it that no one is giving me a call back? So I was very confused with what was going on. And so time passed. We're looking at, so like I said, December 2009 was when I graduated. And then we fast forward. So now we're in January, no job. February, no job. I'm doing taxes, but I hate it. March, no job. April, no job, no full time job. Let me stress that, no full time job. May. And so am now working a summer program, and this summer program is like a children's summer camp, and so I'm a counselor. So I'm doing that. So I'm doing all the things to make ends meet, and so I'm lost and confused. And then finally, I said, God, I give up. I can't do this because there is nothing wrong with me, but the doors aren't opening. So it must be that I'm not giving you control of the situation, meaning that I'm not trusting you. And I had a conversation with God, and that conversation was very simple. God, I need to honor you with my finances. I'm not trusting you to be my source. And so what I ended up doing was something very simple. I said, God, I'm going to give you my tithe. And I'm going to trust you because when I give you my tithe, I have been a Christian since about the age of 6. So I know what tithing is, but that doesn't mean just because we know better that we do better. And so I had this conversation, and I said, hey, God, I'm going to honor you with my finances. And at that time, I wasn't going to church regularly. It was all the things. I wasn't reading my Bible. So I had pretty much neglected my relationship with God. And so fast forward, now we're in July 2010. And so I end up having a conversation with my uncle Lawrence, who is now passed. He actually passed a week later, which is so ironic. But I had a conversation with my uncle, and my uncle said, hey, baby, how are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm doing fine. And we're literally talking across the yard because that's how our parents' houses are. And I'm having this conversation with him, and he's like, how are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm doing fine. He was like, you found a job yet? I was like, no, sir, but I'm working some part-time jobs, and that's what I'm doing right now. And he said with displicative, I won't say those words, but he was like, you have a job. And I laughed and I was like, he's right. I do have resources. I do have things that God has already done for me. He was already being my provider, but I wasn't seeing the current situation as provision. I thought that my resources had to come in a certain package. And because it wasn't coming in that package, I wasn't even acknowledging the provision that he had already provided. So this was my surrender moment where I said, you know what, God, you have provided for me all along. I haven't missed a cell phone bill because I really didn't have that many bills at that time. But you have made sure that I never missed a meal. I've never been hungry. I've had somewhere to lay my head every night. You've done all those things for me. I trust you. And so that was that moment. And so, like I said, a week later, my uncle passed. He passed, and it was tough because it was something that was completely unexpected. And in that moment, in the grief and all the things that were going on, I got a job interview. In fact, the day that he passed is the same day of my interview. So I received text messages that morning. I didn't know what was going on. I did the interview. I called my family, and in the doorway of Russell Hall, a building that doesn't even exist. Well, they've renovated the building, but that framework, that doorway is not even there anymore. In that doorway, I called home and said, "What's going on?" And that's when I found the news. And so there was nothing that was important right at that moment anymore about my job. The only thing that was important was my family. And so it took my mind off of my problem to focus on things that are way more important. The relationships with my family, checking in on my sisters, my aunts, my uncles, the people who loved and adored my uncle. And so now I am in a position where I'm like, you know what, God, whatever happens, happens. It'll be great to work for the university, but right now I'm just worried about my family. And so I had that interview. I had another interview with another company. And so on the day of the funeral, literally, we're ready to walk out the door into to head to the funeral. I get a phone call from my first supervisor telling me that they needed my authorization for a background check. And that was it. And that's really when I realized that God had everything under control. He knew when it needed to happen, He knew how it needed to happen. And so, my encouragement to you all this morning is that recognize how God is being your resource now. It may not look the way you want it to, but He is being your resource. He is being your provider. He is sustaining you. And so when you start focusing on what He is actually doing versus what you want, you put yourself in a better position. I wasn't recognizing what God was providing for me already. I wasn't recognizing that even though I was working 3 jobs, 4 jobs at a time, that provision was positioning me so I could be able to work. It was positioning me that I didn't have to ask for time off or anything so I could spend quality time with my family before starting that job. I didn't have to worry about sick leave or annual leave because if I was working or if I got a position in another state, I might not have been able to come home and be with my family. And so the faith and finance challenge is really a point to say, I know what it's like to hit rock bottom. I know what it's like to feel like you've done all the things, you've taken all the steps, you've done all the things to make it work. But I also know that we have a father, a provider, a God who knows how to take care of us, but we have to trust Him. And so, by learning to trust Him with your finances, you will be able to see the provision, but you also may be surprised to see that the open doors may come when you least expect it. but you need to be ready for that. Be ready for the opportunity. And so, thank you so much for those of you who have stayed and listened to a little bit of my story of why faith and finances are so important to me, to bring these two things together, to be in a place where I'm now telling you the story, like telling you where my hope come from, why I am a believer that your finances can go with along with your faith. And so, I encourage you that if you are wanting to be a part of this journey, if you want to include God into your finances, join me tonight for the challenge. Join me tonight for the Faith and Finance Challenge, where we'll walk through what type of mindset you need to have, what type of habits you need to develop, and then lastly, you want to make sure that you manage these resources and become a better steward. So not only are you getting the information, but you're also applying the information. I'm excited to share this information with you tonight because it's really a blessing to be able to give you this information, because I know that if God did it for me, I know that he can do it for you. And I pray that you have an amazing day. I look forward to seeing you. If you're going to be here tonight, let me know. Put it in the chat, and let me know that you will be tapping into the Faith and Finance Challenge. So it's been my pleasure to talk to you this morning about why faith and finance and how it can be an impact in your life. Continue to have a great day. And let's see. Let me show this so you can see it, just for those who came in late. Yeah, you can go to the link that showed on the screen, pfc.com/faith and finances. And I look forward to seeing you all tonight. Have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you all at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time tonight.